Okay, so now we're ready to use the rosin solvent. The rosin solvent's used to help dissolve any residual flux that's left over. It also helps to clean the installation up. This particular packaging is for our workshop kits. We've got it wrapped in an absorbent material, and now it's sealed in this plastic bag, and I need to open that up. I'll just take a pair of scissors and do that. And once we get this thing out, you'll also notice that it has a white seal to keep the cap from moving during shipment. Go ahead and take that off. Rosin solvent is a 50-50 mixture of isopropyl alcohol and toluene. It's very simple to use. Comes with a brush cap applicator, and all that we have to really do is start in and around our solder connections. In this case, we got the pieces of tape, so we're going to use it to help us get the pieces of tape off as well. As with any chemicals that you're using for gauge installation, you always want to check the expiration dates on it, and this has an expiration date of March 2021, so we know we're in good shape. So I'll take the rosin solvent, and I'm just going to start by flooding it over top of the pieces of tape and in and around the solder connections. And this is paper drafting tape, so it should break down pretty easy. That's one of the reasons that we use paper drafting tape, is that it's pretty easy to get it off because you're not going to leave it in place normally. So I'll just take it and kind of work it. Once I get that piece of tape off, I will throw it away. And then I'll go to work on these other two pieces of tape. It kind of helps if you can sort of lift it, kind of get it up underneath the edge. That'll get it starting to work and start breaking down the mastic on the tape. Sometimes it takes just a minute or two. You can see it's starting to break that one down. You just kind of work it up underneath the tape using the bristles of the brush. And once you've got it broken down, then you can go ahead and peel it on up. You can use your tweezers if you want to. And I'll continue to work on these pieces of tape to get them off. Now you might be asking, won't you just peel the tape off? It's because you just spent the last half hour putting wires on these strain gauges. The last thing you want to do is to damage a strain gauge just by aggressively pulling off the tape. So you let the rosin solvent help you to get the tape off. I'm going to lift this edge along the side of this beam. Just kind of work it up underneath it. You can see there that it's really starting to attack that piece of tape, and that tape's starting to come off. It might take you a minute or two, but you just continue at it. There you go, and once you float it off, you go ahead and remove that one. And this one should be ready to come off as well. So now that you've gotten all the tape off, you want to make sure you get whatever mastic is left behind, and you also want to remove any signs of a residual flux. So you want to take the rosin solvent, flood the area in and around the solder connections, underneath the wire, keep it nice and wet. And then once you get to that point where it's nice and wet, take a gauze pad and just blot it dry. And then basically you turn right around and you do that again. try to work it up underneath. Be careful as you do this, but work the bristles of the brush up underneath the lead wire, because a lot of times flux, when it gets trapped right up underneath that solder connection. A little bit of tape residue looks like it's left on there. We'll get that off here in a second. We'll take it, and then we'll blot it dry. Now the next thing I'd like to do is add some strain relief for these wires, because we don't want to accidentally pull off one of these leads as we start, or pull off the tabs of the strain gauge once we start handling these wires. So what I'm going to do is take a handle end of one of the cotton tip applicators, and I'll take my pointed tweezers, and if you watch, this is real simple. I'm going to come down about an inch or so away from the strain gauges, and I'm going to put a strain relief loop. And the way I do that is I just take my tweezers and press down firm about an inch away from the gauges, and I'll take this handle end and slide it up, and then I'll just rock that over. And as I do that, what it does is it puts a little bit of an inchworm into that wire like that. So once I have, and see what that would do is it'll allow for a little bit of slack, if you will. If you accidentally start to tension on the wire, it'll pull that little loop out. So once I have that in place, then I'll take another piece of paper drafting tape, and I'm going to use that to tape these wires down in place. Now, paper drafting tape is probably not the best thing you could choose, but for us, this is a pretty short-term measurement. We're trying to compare these two gauges, and then basically after that, we're done. We do sell an aluminum foil tape that works great for this. You can also use some of our protective coatings to provide strain relief for the wire, but for what we're doing today, that'll be just fine.